plan to address the growing economic inequality in Southern Illinois and throughout the country?
Good, finally, an economics question. The answer is not simple, but the first place we have to start with is infrastructure. If you look at any economic development that has occurred in Southern Illinois, it started with literally a road to the right infrastructure, a road to the right development. That is where we have to start. Would be rebuilding our bridges, rebuilding our roads, the long list of engineering requirements and infrastructure requirements that there is here in Illinois is more than enough work to get this economy rolling here in Southern Illinois. And it's the Engineers Society, I forget the name of it, they gave Illinois a C- in terms of our infrastructure. And in East St. Louis, in Centerville, and so many other communities like that, as well as in Cairo, if you look at the water pipelines and the water safety infrastructure, the water towers that are rusting, we have things that were put in during the Roosevelt administration. That's more than enough work for our steam fitters, for our iron workers, for literally thousands of workers that are ready and waiting and ready to work hard here in Southern Illinois. That will stimulate our economy. But those are basic needs that we have to rebuild, and I think on top of that, you have to also invest in high-tech industries. That is the wave of the future for every part of the world. It's not just Southern Illinois. That's the wave of the future for everybody. And we're not going to be able to attract those high-tech jobs, the Amazon.coms of the world, without investing in the infrastructure that is a basic part of any economic growth platform. You have to start there. When you invest in infrastructure, not some scheme that is just a tax break for contractors, but real hard dollars in bridges and roads, as well as in high-speed internet that will put thousands of electrical workers to work, thousands of linemen to work, making sure we have high-speed internet in Southern Illinois where kids can't get their homework done because their computers are too slow. That's where you have to start is with infrastructure. That's just the first thing.
So we should all have a trend on the infrastructure part because this is an obvious, quick fix to local economy, and it's been promised to us. We've got President Trump ran on this entire infrastructure package, and we haven't seen a dime of it yet. So we've got to hold. We have to hold our leadership in the White House and in Congress accountable for that. Brenda mentioned high tech. This is very important. High tech, renewables, biotech, agriculture. We always ignore agriculture, and yet we're in the perfect setting for agricultural diversity and agricultural industry, and we need to start embracing it more. Not just corn, but a vast variety of different agricultural products and agricultural uses. And we do a really poor job of marketing that because we're so caught up in some of the other industries such as mining and manufacturing. And then we need to talk about the trades. We have a deficit of high-skilled tradespersons, and that's because our unions are more focused on political action than they are on trade action. They need to start bringing in younger generation. They need to start recruiting younger people. They need to start telling people that the trades is a good paying job, that a $60,000 a year earning and living in a trade is a good thing, and that's a great living. And when we start strengthening the unions, having them fight for more different causes like parental leave, education rights, and attracting a younger generation, then we'll be able to attract those big construction jobs and some of those infrastructure jobs that we just don't have the bodies for right now.
I got two easy ones and one goofy one. The easy one is prevent right to work.
Yeah.
The other easy one is $15 minimum wage.
A livable wage.
And I talked to a woman in Union County Democratic Club down there. And her son doesn't even have auto shop in school. No auto shop, no wood shop, no machine shop. How do we get blue-collar tradesmen if we're not grabbing them in high school and showing them this is an elegant way to earn a living? That's pretty idiot-proof in my book. And then my personal pet project is that we would take, this is on my webpage, you can read about it, I got pictures of locomotives and all kinds of boy toys and shit like that. We should make East St. Louis a high-speed rail hub for the Midwest. 1/6 of the American population lives in the Midwest. You could have the hub in East St. Louis with all that choice real estate, flat ground there. You could go Chicago, Indianapolis, Milwaukee. You could have Nashville, Memphis, Louisville, Tulsa, Kansas City, Des Moines, Omaha. 13 cities in this region. 1/6 of the American population. They're all about 206, less than 300 miles. And if you had a train that's making an hour and a half each way, it'd fill up like that load coming from Chicago to St. Louis. But you'd be going to 13 different cities, and you'd be putting Caterpillar to work, John Deere to work, the steel mills to work. You'd have iron workers working. You'd have railroad people working, and you'd have all of a sudden you'd have hotels springing up in East St. Louis. Why don't we have a long-term vision that's identical to the interstate highway system, except for rail, and make East St. Louis the jewel of it? That would be a good repayment to the people of East St. Louis who have tolerated so much for so long. That's you.
All right, we started with Kelly on this one. We're going to start with David. We're going to come Dean. We're going to end up with Kelly. Next question is, what is your plan for energizing the Democratic Party to encompass those who are apathetic about voting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm so glad I got this one first. Okay, so what we know there's about 477,000 something eligible voters in our district. We know that based on election turnouts, there's about 150,000 plus sitting on the sidelines. And there's some trends in that demographics. The trend is that African Americans are voting at a lower clip than by percentage, that 18 to 40-year-olds are participating a lot less than the next generation. And what we need to do as a party is we have to get more progressive, okay? We have to start talking about progressive issues. And we need to start appealing to these voters based on their things, the things that affect them. Younger people, we need to start talking about education and free education. We need to start talking about wiping out their student loans and attacking predatory lending. We need to start talking to African Americans about the criminal justice system and how it affects them and how systematic racism exists and what we're going to do about it. We need to start talking about these issues that affect voters that have basically sat on the sidelines and said, I'm not going to participate because they keep putting in a candidate that doesn't talk my language. And we do it cycle after cycle. If you look back at the Democratic Party, we have continued to put in these power-funded recruited candidates, and what has happened is they're out of touch, out of base with a large portion of the population, and the voters don't show up. We don't need to convert the Boston voters to vote for us because they're not going to. We need to convert the voters that already want to follow us that just aren't voting.
Again?
You're up. This is hard.
When Bernie Sanders got kneecapped last year, 10 million young people went home and didn't vote. Those 10 million people were on fire. Those 10 million people believed in Bernie Sanders. Those 10 million kids were red hot. And they thought they were part of the system, and they thought they were part of American democracy, and they thought they were making a difference, and they got kicked in the groin. And they went home, and they stayed home. Now, how do we get them back? We get them back with talking about their future. I'm an old person. There's a stronger word for that. I'm an old person. My future is pretty well defined. We're not doing anything for these young people. When I went to a Bernie Sanders rally, these kids were on fire. You could have turned, this is down in Afton, he was introduced by Danny DeVito of all people. You could turn those kids out the door and they would have leveled St. Louis if you'd have said so. They were on fire, and yet we've lost that fire. We've lost these young people. We don't have anything to offer. We should be taking the amphitheater down at Carbondale and filling it with kids and flying in the Rolling Stones to say, come vote, do something. I mean, we should be using our imaginations to get these young people and get them back out there and get them to have that fervor and that dynamic that they had for the election last time that was denied them. And I think there's some bitterness there on their part, and possibly rightfully so.
So keep that 30 seconds roll over.
That's
That's
your
right.
extra name. Thank you. That's all right, I won't need it. Listen, everyone in here is an adult. You are 18 and over. You are registered voters. And we need to understand where it is we are in this country. We are not in Vermont. We are not in California. We need to understand, folks, as difficult as it may be for some people, that Donald Trump won this district handily. Handily. But we also need to understand that Tammy Duckworth won this district by 9 points in the same election with the same voters. So how do we win? We listen. We shut up and listen. We hear what the voters are saying. And what they're telling us is it's time to throw out the old political playbook. They've had it. This left versus right stuff, this is not a left versus right district. It is not. This is an up versus down district. This is people who are working poor, middle class, people who are struggling from day to day versus these elite few at the top, whether they are Democrat or Republican, that have corrupted our political system and made it something that is rigged to help them instead of helping the rest of us. And if you understand that, and you understand what ties folks in East St. Louis to people in Pinckneyville, that's the thing that unites them. Their disgust, their anger, their sentiment, their feeling that this system is not working for them anymore. That's how you get people to vote for us again. Not by the same old consultancy language, not by the same old left versus right. You listen to what people are saying. And people in Southern Illinois, they want to be listened to. They're hurting, they're in pain, and Congress is still not listening. And frankly, the political class in this country still is not listening. And if we throw that out and we start hearing what they're saying and bringing people together, rather than chopping them up into little pieces to make some number that we need to be able to get to, but we bring people together in a coalition that is a different kind of coalition that they believe in, then I think we're going to win easily. Thank you.
All right, we're going to ask one more question, and you can, because we're butting up against a deadline here, we're trying to get out, we're going to give you 3 minutes to incorporate both the answer to this question and your closing statement.
Well, it'll make more sense.
It'll make more sense, trust me. Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
What is your plan to defeat Mike Bost? When are we going to start taking the fight to the GOP?
Okay,
Starts Dean.
yes.
Every month at the Belleville Flea Market, I have a stand out in the cattle barn. It's not, now it's winter, so they've discontinued that. But I was out there, and people would come to me, and I'd get some ruffians, rough characters, and they'd say, what about my guns? What about my guns? And I say, well, I'm a farmer. I got guns. You know, you get a rabid coon or something. You got to have something around the farm there. I said, what about your health care? Well, I ain't got none. Oh. Well, what are you going to do when your kidney blows out? Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, that's how you take the fight to Mike Bost. He just voted for a $1.5 trillion takeaway from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and all that. That's what we got to expose Mike Bost on how he plays the Tea Party line, how he plays the playbook of Wall Street, how he plays the playbook of his corporate masters and his money masters and the Kochs and the Mercers and the idiocy that we now, this orange marmoset moron, we call him. I can't even call him the president. I have to call him, I can't repeat, I'm sorry. I already said one four-letter word, that's all you get. You expose Boss for being what he is. Boss is a four-letter word. Bosta with an A on it is Portuguese for caca. I would hire anarchists to go all around the 12th district on all his billboards and put an A behind his name. For anarchy, for the anarchists. We'll tell them, you can be anarchist, just put an A behind Boss' name. Do you know the story about Boston the Beagle? Does anybody know the story about Boston the Beagle?
Yeah.
Go look it up. Go Google Boston the Beagle, where Boss went with a .45 caliber handgun and shot a beagle in a cage. That's the kind of man Boss is. We've got to carry. We can be as dirty as we want with Boss because Boss is dirty. I got how much?
50 seconds.
Oh hell. Oh damn. That's three. I work with the boys all day today, so we talk about a few things. Anyway, even girls. No, I mean, it's critical. No matter. Okay, here's the final analysis. We're doing a primary. We're doing the run-up. We're going to choose a candidate. However this works out, and we want to think that this candidate's going to be as progressive as we can get. And I'm continually surprised by the gentleman next to me here who keeps saying progressive stuff. I can't quite get my mind around it. He can endorse the legalization of marijuana, but since he's a legal professional, it probably makes sense that they would endorse the legalization of marijuana. But in the run-up to this, we got to be as progressive as we can, and we got to defeat Boss. We can't split ourselves and divide ourselves.
Brendan Kelly.
I think what Dean just said, what he finished on, is exactly how we're going to do it. We have to be clear-eyed about this. It is not enough for us to just be right. Democratic Party, we're right on a lot of the issues. We are. We're not perfect. But we've been right and we lost. We have to be right, but we also have to fight. We have to fight hard for what we believe in because it is what the American people believe in. And it's not going to be by dicing us up and dividing us. We have to open our eyes and see that the more we fight each other, the less we're paying attention to what these folks at the top are doing. And we're missing it is what it is they're doing. And you can see it in the healthcare vote, where they voted to take away healthcare from 38,000 people in this district. That's more people than we have in some counties here in the 12th Congressional District. You can see it in the other policies that they're pushing, the rollback of banking regulations, what they're doing with this tax policy, which is not about helping the middle class. We're missing what it is they're doing the more we are fighting each other. So the way we win is we outwork them, we outsmart them. That won't be too tough. And most of all, we quit playing their game. Yeah. Quit taking the big things. Quit playing their game, and that's how we're going to win. We've got to fight the good fight, but this time, let's win.
This is a great question because I think this is the type of room where we're building this momentum on how to beat Boss. And we can outwork them. I know that. I can tell based on the people in this room, what we're doing here, the events that we're throwing. The GOP's not doing this. They're not having this. They're sitting back, waiting for it to happen, and they're going to throw more money at it than we try to throw at it. That's not going to work. And it's not going to be a money issue. This is not going to be a game of who can spend more money. It's going to be the issue of who does things differently. We do have to take a fresh perspective of ourselves. I'm not talking about fighting. I'm talking about looking at ourselves and saying, have we done the same thing over and over and over and over again, just expecting a different result? You know, the definition of insanity. And we have. We look at our campaigns, throughout the last several cycles, and they look exactly the same. We check the same boxes, we do the same things, we say the same things, we talk about the same thing. And every time we do that, we're losing votes. We are losing followers. We are losing progressives and younger voters that side with Democrats. They just feel alienated. They feel like their issues aren't being represented. Brendan said a great thing, we listen, but we also have to listen, then come up with things that we believe. Because people need to know how we stand on issues. We can't just listen and then hope they think we agree with them. We actually have to have beliefs and stances on issues. And we also have to realize that when we take stances, there are risks when we take those stances of losing potential voters. And that's very specific when we come into certain areas, such as when we say the words clean coal, and we know scientifically that doesn't exist. We lose voters. Every time we say fracking, and we're pro-fracking, we lose voters. Every time we use that kind of language, every time we refuse to say the words Black Lives Matter, we lose voters. And this is not about segmenting you or breaking you apart. This is about understanding the diversity in the incredible size of our district and the makeup. And we're not all the same. And we don't all necessarily face the same issues. And that's what representative politics is about understanding that you and you don't necessarily have the same issues. Yes, we're in the same battle to beat Bost, but I also, as a representative, need to understand what it's like to lead a diverse and different group of people and understand what each one of their individual needs is and how to take care of that. Because that's what legislation is about. That's what representative politics is about. And that's how we're going to beat Bost.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of what we had planned. We've got a few minutes left here. I know Mr. Kelly needs to get going, but we've got time for folks to do some schmutzing or whatever it is you need to do. I probably used the wrong word.
Schmutz is what you've got on your face. The spears still on your face. Oh, man.
So we thank you all for coming out. I can tell you that Indivisible is going to be having an education event next week, next Saturday on the 18th, correct? 18th, 10 o'clock in Grant City. There's stuff on our website about that. We're also going to be having, you can find more stuff there. Did you have any events to plug?
No.
Okay, no problem. And we've all got different sets of events to go on, but we're very glad that you all came out. It's glad to have some supporters.
And one other thing, also, let us know if this was helpful for you and if you would like to have another one of these events. If so, we're happy to set up another.
We're always interested in good questions to ask. We're always interested in recommendations on how to make this look a little less grassrootsy, as Shannon put it to begin with.
I like it.
So, format changes, we're always happy to hear about.
Not too slick.
So glad to see some familiar faces, glad to see some new faces, and hope to get to know you all better in the coming
And
months.
thank you three for coming out and answering such.
The most important.